Right.
We've got backup.
Okay, right. We are live. Okay, so if I say to you keywords with regards to websites, how does that make you feel? Does anybody want to go?
Clearer now, but that's only thanks to you.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh, turn that off. Anybody else? Does it make you
still, like, in spite of weeks of trying to understand, I'm still a bit confused because I don't know how it works in terms of each page and how many and things like that. So I'm quite pleased to be here to go over it again.
Okay. When I asked that question, I actually asked the question of how does SEO make you feel to somebody recently, and she actually said websites and SEO make me shudder. Like literally, I just hate the thought of them. I've had some bad experiences. The amount of people that tell me they've had bad experiences with getting their website together and that sort of thing. So I just thought I'd kind of start off with asking you like how it made you feel, because often, as I say, people kind of don't like the thought of it, and yet keywords are so important for your website and for getting more eyes on your business. And this week in my socials, I was talking about scroll marketing, which essentially is when you're on a scrolling platform, like, you know, any of the social media platforms. People are sort of scrolling through and just seeing what catches their eye. And obviously that's where hashtags come in, because you're trying to align your content with the right customer or the right prospect in the hope that the hashtags will help as well. But actually, when you think about it in another way, search marketing, which is essentially when you go to Google or you go to YouTube and you're specifically looking for something, that's a much better opportunity, because then somebody has gone in and they're specifically looking for help. Now, not all keywords are created equal, because it's all around keyword intent. So if I want to research something like a destination for a holiday idea, I'm going to go into Google and put in my search, and that keyword intent is much more informational. So in other words, I'm researching something, I'm not looking for a travel agent, I'm just kind of getting a bit of a feel for, you know, that destination or what options are available. Whereas if I decided I needed help with my business, or I wanted some help from a professional, then my keyword might be what we call more transactional, because I'm actually looking potentially to spend money. Now, it's not that I'm going to spend money right there and then, but that keyword intent is quite different. So there's quite a lot to think about when it comes to keywords, because not only have you got to think like your customer, you've got to kind of know what competitors are doing, how your customer's thinking, and it can be quite overwhelming. So that at some point you're going to need a tool for doing this, and even just going into Google, starting to type a search, you'll notice, I can't remember what they call it, but you'll notice that in the bar you start to get other ideas kind of come up. So Google's like trying to sort of almost, so that can be even just a simple way, that can be a great way to start seeing what people are looking for. And then another tip for you is that when you do a search, and I'll say Google because Google has such a huge presence online, you know, it's not the only search engine, but also further down the search engine results page is something, it says people also ask. So that can be another great way to kind of get an idea of what people are looking for, because you'll be surprised, like sometimes you'll go through keywords and think, oh, that's so random, why would somebody search for that? But it doesn't necessarily mean that's the right keyword for you and for the intent of your offer or your service. So any questions so far? Does that make sense, what I've said? Yeah.
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 Is there a difference? So we concentrate on Google, but like obviously there's Safari now as well. So do they just use Google anyway? Is it when you go into Safari, is it different to going into Google? Sorry, is that
So
really?
do you mean the browser? So you've got Google Chrome, which is the browser, and you've got Safari, which is a browser. Whereas Google's got all these tools. Google Search Engine is different to the browser. So for other search engines, you've got DuckDuckGo, which I think pride themselves on privacy. So if you really want to be incognito, that's the best one. It doesn't, even if you turn off your settings and your IP address in Google Chrome, can still track where you're coming from. And then you've got Bing, which is Microsoft, I think. So that's another search engine. And, they're all, when you set up your site properly and with the keywords properly, and you've done your research, to be honest, it will work across all search engines.
Yeah.
So I only use Google as the example because that's just what everybody is used to, essentially. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or anything? No. Okay. So yeah, keywords are like the bridge, if you like, to bring your customer and your offer together. And I sort of came up with four things to share, and I'm more than happy to go deeper on this if you want, but I just wanted to kind of keep it top level, so I don't want to overwhelm anybody. But obviously the first thing is you need to do your research. So that might be going into Google, like I showed you. That might be even thinking about words that your customers use. So start paying attention to what they're saying to you, because then if you go and feed that back into Google, that can actually be quite interesting. And Google AdWords, which is obviously if you're wanting to sort of scale and that's paid ads, they have quite a good free tool that does give you some volume. So what I mean by that is a keyword will have a number of searches a month. So that volume is important. But then how competitive that keyword is will kind of help decide whether that's a keyword worth going for. So what I mean by that is if there's lots of other websites that have more authority than you and are kind of higher up the listings, or kind of more domain authority I can talk about, but if Google sees those as more of an authority and they're going for the same keyword, then essentially there's no point you going for it yet. There's other keywords you can go for. And so like long tail keywords particularly. So if you are wanting to write some blogs and you're wanting to answer some questions, that's where long tail keywords are. And what that means is it's just a longer keyword, how do I, what is this? The longer the keyword, the less competition, the more opportunity to potentially win that keyword. So blogging is a great way of kind of starting in that respect. So yeah, you need to do research, and at some point you probably will need a paid tool, because all the free tools will just give you only so much data, and then you kind of need to go to another stage. The next tip was you then need to kind of weave, once you've identified what your keywords are, you then need to weave those into your content, because when you do that, you always put the user first, always write for your potential customer, not for the search engine. This is where a lot of people go wrong. They kind of keyword stuff. They kind of, you read it and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't sound natural. And so the trick is to write for the human first, and then kind of use tactics to get those keywords into your content, and we call that kind of optimization, the technical term. And yeah, so I've mentioned long tail keywords. So that's when you start to go a bit deeper, and that's answering questions that your ideal customers are likely to have. And again, if you go back to feedback you've had from customers, or you think about questions you're asked a lot, that's the kind of content you want to be writing, because and there's likely to be a keyword that will sit alongside that quite nicely. But having that content ready to direct people to, so, oh, actually, I get asked that quite a lot, so I wrote a blog on it. Can I send you the link? So that can save quite a lot of time if you're trying to explain something. And let's face it, time is is what we is finite. So yeah, that's sort of a big tip, really, is thinking about the questions people ask you, doing your research, and then creating content around that to speed up things in the future for you. And then really, I always use this term, a website is never finished. It is a live thing, like a social channel. You wouldn't set a social channel up and then just let it, put a bit of content on there and just let it run for 5 years and expect it to do well. You have to be feeding the content in, and your website's exactly the same. And the algorithms change, behaviors change. We've got huge changes going on with AI at the moment, and that's going to have a knock-on effect with search. But things change, trends change, keywords change. So once you kind of have a better idea about the keywords and the content and what's working and how you can measure that through the tools, then you want to keep an eye on it and just make sure. And that's the beauty of blogging. You don't have to have loads and loads and loads of blogs. You don't have to constantly be coming up with new blogs. You can be tweaking and refining the blogs you have and bringing them up to date every year. Because you might write a blog in 2023, then in 2024 you can go back and look at that, do your research, update it. Great, new piece of content that then might be optimized and work for some new keywords. So yeah, so they're the sort of 4 tips, really. Do your research, weave that into your content, and create content that you hear your customers want answers to, and then kind of monitor and tweak that and refine your content so that you can dine out on it for longer. So they're the 4 tips I wanted to share. There's plenty of time for discussion and Q&A and anything I can kind of help with. So go. Any questions?
So are you saying that you can do all your SEO in the blog? You don't have to write keywords into your actual website. So the blog part of your website can act as the engine for your SEO.
Yes. Yeah. So the bit that probably needs updating more, yes, I would say that is like the equivalent of your social channel, where you're putting fresh, more up-to-date content.
Yeah.
That said, your kind of homepage and your service pages are very much kind of who you are and what your offers are, what your services are. And they definitely need research and optimizing and sorting out, because like blogging, it's a bit like bringing somebody in the back door of your business. So it's not a hard sell. It's very much, a nice article they've come across, it's well written, it's interesting, it's engaging, and then you're not selling in it. And maybe towards the bottom you might kind of go, and if you need help with this, I can help you, and you'd link them to service page or something like that. So yes and no is the answer to that question. You still need to optimize other parts of your website for sure.
Okay.
But that tends to be, once that's kind of done, doesn't need, yes, you'd keep an eye on it, but it doesn't necessarily need to be, you don't need to keep updating it, as it were.
I see. Thank
Do
you.
you need to optimize every single page on your website?
No, you don't, because the search engine robots only have so much, and it's not based on time or patience, but they will only go and try and crawl so much of a website. So if you optimize lots of pages that are just like not relevant, like your contact page or an about page or the blog feeder page, they're not, your transactional and informational pages are the ones to optimize, because it's like a crawl budget. Google will kind of allow so much, however it does it, and then it will move on to the next one. So you want to make it really clear, these are the pages I want you to optimize, and these are the ones. And that's why you can kind of unindex pages where you can say, don't crawl this page, because then it will go and crawl the other pages.
Which ones did you say we need to optimize?
So it's your home page, it's your service pages where you are making an offer or saying, look, I'm the specialist at this, come and do you want to work with me? And then your individual blog articles are the only ones you need to optimize. I mean, if you were doing an event or something, or I guess, but there's so many ways of promoting events nowadays. You know, you've got Eventbrite, you've got locally we have a great organization called Gloss Info, and they have an events page. You know, so they're sending that out to their list of people. So there's not, you might have an event page, but there's probably no point optimizing it when you've got other ways of doing it.
What about if you've got video content? So for example, if you have got videos that are, you know, rather than, obviously I still have blogs as well, but you have like the equivalent blog in a video, would you then optimize those pages as well?
So do you mean if you're pulling the video in from, say, YouTube or something?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that page, like if that was on a blog, then definitely. Is that what you mean?
So basically, what my intention is with the website is I'll have a section which is all sort of blogs, but then I'm going to put a video gallery, and then people can go into specific videos. So some people like reading, some people like watching video. So what I will have then is effectively vlogs that are talking about the same topics that what's written, but it's in video form instead. So would you optimize those pages as well?
So I would say that the better, yes, you could, if you could find a good keyword, but the better option might be to do it the other way around, where you would put the video in YouTube, and then YouTube gives you that opportunity for a post. So then you could write a little bit of blurb, a few hashtags.
Optimizing YouTube and
then linking
to your website.
Yes. So the post page, you'd link back to that page on your website. Now, the reason I say that is because YouTube is updated more quickly than Google, because Google has a human element to the changes. So there's like, there's a human element. I've written a blog on it. As an example of me saying that, I've written a blog on it, about how there is another step before content is updated onto Google, whereas YouTube, it's like straight away. So having a link from a post in YouTube back to your website to that specific page would be a better strategy.
Is Instagram still worth doing? And how can we use Instagram for like the hashtags for our keywords and all of that? I sometimes feel like I'm wasting a lot of time on it, and I don't know if it's worth it.
Instagram and all of the social channels are worth doing because it's brand awareness, and whilst you might be growing a following, you don't really know how many of those followers are your ideal customer. But if you've got a small audience that's fairly engaged, that's better than having a huge audience. So I do think it's it's worth still doing, but not spending loads of time doing that. You're better off creating blogs and then kind of breaking them up. And then, so I call that like the meal, the meaty article, and then you break it up into snacks and then just put that onto your social media. So it's a much easier way of doing content creation.
Repurposing the existing content basically onto social.
Because social media provides such a lovely way of being able to do that. You know, you could do a reel, you could do a video, you could do a carousel where you've got like a screen and then you just do multiple, you know, that you can really, yeah, you can do it quite easily. But you don't want to be spending loads of time thinking of content over there and building that following when you could be putting it into your website and then as a bit of an afterthought putting it onto social media.
Yeah,
So,
that's really good. That's really helpful. I mean, I decided, I made a conscious decision to work with you on this as opposed to developing my TikTok, because I can just see that going the same way as Instagram, and eventually people just getting bored with it. And I just thought it's going to take me so long to start over on TikTok. I've got, I don't know, 15 followers or something. And I just thought I just can't be asked to do it. And I just wondered whether I'm making a mistake or not is really the main question.
I would
no,
say, you know, if Natalie doesn't mind me kind of, just because I don't think Natalie does you don't do masses on TikTok, do you, Natalie?
I've done it half-heartedly. I mean, I do have a plan to do more, but there's always so many other things to be doing. So yeah, at some point.
The way that I look at TikTok, Jess, so this might help you, is so I do exactly in terms of what Natalie's talking about, where you create the blog content, you then pull bits of that blog content to be social media posts, and exactly like Natalie says, whether it's a reel, whether it's a text and an image, or however you do it. But what I tend to do is if I'm creating a reel in Instagram, all I do is repurpose it and post it into TikTok. So it's the same content that's in Instagram and on TikTok. I tend to find I get more views in TikTok than I do in relation to Instagram. Also on TikTok, they've now brought out something where you can convert your TikTok to being a business. So you then can have a lead form, you can then put your website up, you can actually put links in there, whereas if you're just a normal TikTok user, you can't. So it doesn't need to have great investment in terms of time. All I would say is if you've got something you're putting up as a reel on Instagram, just bung it into TikTok as well. You've got nothing to lose.
You download it and save it to your photos and then upload it again.
Yeah, that's literally what I do on my phone. All of my reels I do on my phone. I just download it and then upload it. Sometimes I even put it onto Snapchat of all things.
You don't make it in the Instagram Reel app.
Yeah, I always create it in my Instagram Reel app. I don't ever do it.
Yeah, me too.
To be honest, I know you can use things like CapCut, you can use captions and all of these additional apps, but I tend to just do it quickly in Instagram, post it up, download it, upload it into TikTok. And also the one tip that I have found is if you want to put the reel in your story and you want it to be more than 10 or 15 seconds, is if you upload the reel from your photo library rather than directly from Instagram into your story, it will then show the full reel rather than just the 10 or 15 second clip.
That's really interesting. Thank you. And how do keywords work across those platforms?
So in those platforms, it's hashtags. So essentially it is a form of search. You can follow hashtags in social media. So if there's a particular hashtag that is relevant to you, your industry or your customers, then you can go and follow them. So every time somebody tags that hashtag, you'd be notified. But social media, you know, the chances of your content actually being shown to the right person at the right time it's so random. You've got to be slaving away on it, which is why I'm saying you know, use it. It definitely has a place. But
most of mine is networks, like people in the industry or celebrants coming up who are new or existing clients, but none of them are new people that I know of.
No, exactly.
Sarah, does TikTok and Instagram get you work?
TikTok hasn't yet, but I've only just literally in the last few days done the lead form. So it's a very new bit where I've converted it to a business account. Instagram, I've had inquiries, but I haven't necessarily had work, but they're not my main sources. It's just a case of I like to be what's called omnipresent. So it means that I'm present on multiple platforms. So if people can see me in different places. So again, it's a bit more around the whole brand awareness. So people actually knowing that I exist.
Yeah. Because if you go and check somebody out and go, oh, I'm going to have a look at their Instagram then, and you see that they're putting stuff up there, that's quite a good signal that they're an active business and they're, you know.
You can waste a lot of time on social media, from my experience. It's I think it's a black hole, and whilst I'm on it, I'm on Instagram. It's got me a little bit of work now and again. You know, some people get a lot of test shoots. I'm a photographer, so I get models coming through that want to hire me for maybe a morning's work. So I get the occasional little bit, but is it worth it with regards to the amount of energy I put into it? I don't know.
I think if you've got work from it, what I would say is look back at what was it that you did that got that work. So what was it that they saw, what particular type of posts that you were doing, etc. And I would do more of that thing. Now, I don't think you don't need to be posting like 3, 4, 5 times in a day. You know, even if you're just doing one thing a day, and it's the whole point of repurposing what you've already got, like Natalie's talking about, is you don't need to go down the rabbit hole and create loads of brand new content. You focus it around the existing stuff, using those using the blog information where you might do a 60-second reel based on a snippet of the blog that you've created. So it's not then having to think of new ideas, and then you don't need to spend loads of time.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if Natalie agrees, but that's kind of that's how I approach it. So I don't go down the rabbit hole.
It's got me little bits of work. It's not worth it if you weigh it up, the amount of time I put into it. I'm kind of starting to use it. I don't know. I put my best photos up there, but I'm kind of starting to use it as a little bit of a diary. That's why I first got into it. Instagram as just kind of a journal, you know, of what I do in life. But I find that if you start doing everything, you can fall straight into this trap of wasting your time, you know. And there might be better platforms, you know, where you could be spending your time. And I know you can repurpose content and stuff, but like I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and I like to put something in that I think people really want to read. So I end up spending a whole morning thinking about my copy, my images, and how I put them together. You know, when they scroll through them, I use apps to do that, and I just don't know if it's worth it. So I'm kind of
that's where the adjustment is. That's where you need to make the adjustment. You know, both Natalie and I have had conversations recently with her in terms, because she's very much a perfectionist as well. And I've said to her, sometimes it's better to just put something out there and not stress about it. And because ultimately people aren't going to notice whether it's perfect or not. All they're going to see is whether it resonates with them or not.
And that time you're spending could be going into an article, and it could still be kind of a diary if you like, but that could be going into a much longer form piece of content that somebody could. And there's, you know, what I teach is kind of the trick is like breaking that up into sections and making it really engaging and easy for somebody to want to read. But that then the other way round, it's so much easier then to repurpose it. So you've got a really decent bit of content for your website, and then you just put it over there as a bit of an afterthought. So you're still doing it. You're just making your time work harder for you, if you like, because organic search, where somebody comes to your website through a search through Google, that's a much but the percentage, so I've got some stats here, 53% of traffic to a website is by organic search. 19% of traffic to a website is by paid search, and then less than 5% is from social media. So if you're only using social media, that's one tactic, but you need to take them somewhere. You need them to do something next. What's that next step? And that's what you would do on your website.
I tried the paid search. I did that for 6 months and I spent a lot of money. And it's probably my fault. I got the completely wrong sort of person phoning me up. You know, they either didn't have any budget or they wanted the world for next to nothing, next to nothing. And they weren't my typical, and they, you know, I was spending a lot of money because they were clicking on my ads.
Yeah.
And sometimes just competitors just looking at what I'm doing, you know, and so I think SEO is the better way for me.
Yes.
Search engine, but it's all to do with a strategy at the beginning, finding out.
Exactly.
You know,
well, that's why you have Natalie, because now
that's why I'm here, and it's a real difficult one because I don't know most of my. Sorry, I'm talking about myself a lot, but in my business, you send out your portfolio to a lot of art buyers, and so your website has to be pristine. It can't be kind of, you know, laden with lots of hit words, keywords, because it'll dilute the look. So they're kind of really critical on the way your images look. So Gloucestershire, London, laid, you know, sort of strewn across your website. It has to be images telling stories, and you know, it has to be like you're going to an art exhibition almost.
Yeah.
And most of those buyers get portfolios sent to them. So very, you know, I don't know how many would Google lifestyle photographer, you know, adventure photographer. So this is what I'm trying to find out. But I know people that are doing it, you know, other photographers, and you know, I'm trying to look at how they do it, sort of thing. So
well, what I would say is, what is good about, because you've got traffic and you've got conversion, right? So when you did the ads, you were sending traffic to a website that wasn't not ready, but the user journey needed work potentially. So actually, the best way to do it is to get your website sorted and all the content and SEO and whatever, and then use ads to scale. So you've got the conversion bit, the conversion mechanism, if you like, is ready, and then you want to scale up. But what a website is great for is pre-qualifying your ideal customer. We don't want those tire kickers. And if they come to a site and it's really clear what you charge and it's really clear what your service is, they're going to go, oh yeah, that's not for me, that's too expensive. And that's what we want, because that's saving you time and effort and not having a conversation with somebody who is not going to buy. So that is exactly, and I don't see a lot of photographers optimizing their websites, which to me means there's a great opportunity for you to do exactly that. And the challenge of making it visually beautiful, telling those stories and getting the content, the text content in, that I think is very, very possible and doable.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely. And if anybody can, it's this woman here.
Oh, bless you, Sarah. So we should definitely chat, Chris. I have you ever run a report on your site, Chris, from how your website's performing?
No, very few people, I don't think, come to my website. All
right. Well, if I give you in the chat, let me just pop in a link.
I don't know. They may do. I don't know.
Well, let's have a look. You can run that free tool that I've just popped into the chat, and you'll get a report back. And then perhaps we could jump on a call and I could just talk you through what it all means and sort of see, you know, what we could do to help.
No, that'd be brilliant. Okay. I've always kind of put it off because I thought most of the people that commission photography kind of know who you are already because they've seen your portfolio. You know, that's what we do in the photography business. But I'm exploring the SEO route because I do believe there must be some people that Google you know, lifestyle, fashion, whatever, photography. Especially on a local basis, I would have maybe.
I was just about to say local SEO is probably the way forward for you, because that actually is good as well, because logistically it's easier. You guys, Lisa and Sarah, you need to go and check out Chris's Instagram. His work is beautiful. Honestly, it's just amazing. Do you want to pop your handle in the
Thank you.
chat, Chris? It's just, I just love
Yeah.
everything he does. And you've got a very specific, the stuff you do is very specific. So again, that could really help with attracting the right. Yeah.
Those people are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Also,
Thanks.
I'd say, Chris, the fact that if you're considering doing something like SEO, is just because your competitors aren't doing it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be. It's just they've made a choice, and you potentially are then opening yourself up to another opportunity of finding work in a different way. I know from my own experience, just because others don't do it doesn't mean it's not right for you.
Yeah. And if anything, it's almost, you should, if they're not doing it, you should be doing it. So I always think about like email marketing, and also what do they call it back in the day, where you have direct mail. Nobody does direct mail. They do direct mail, but not in the same way as it used to be done.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think, God, such an opportunity for direct mail, except you can't measure it like you can email.
Trouble with direct mail at the moment. So I found this little company that does personalized mini newspapers.
Oh, right.
And I thought I could actually transfer because I don't do a newsletter either. Somebody asked me the other day, I subscribed to your newsletter 6 years ago and I've never received one. So I thought I'm going to start doing a newsletter, which kind of goes in hand with the blog, doesn't it? Yeah,
absolutely.
So I can use that content. And I thought I'm going to print mini newspapers and send them out to 100 clients, But then everybody works from home now. So I'm sending it to the business. Will they see it? I don't know. It depends if they go into the office, So that's why direct mail has kind of dropped off, I think, a little bit since COVID. But,
you'd have to get it at the right level. But I guess with what you do, potentially that could be a good way of doing it, or something to tease them. It's destination website. You've got to get people back to your website. That is the whole point, because then they can take that next step. And that might just be signing up to your newsletter or your email list. But then you've got to send a newsletter, Chris. You're signing up to your email list. And then you've got to
it's
send
only because I've been lucky, I've kind of been quite busy, and it's just this year. It's just, I don't know maybe it's what's going on in the world. I don't know. It's kind of, I'm okay, but it's just dropped off a bit. So I'm exploring ways of marketing, and so I've kind of been putting a little bit more into LinkedIn. I think you can do SEO in LinkedIn as well, can't you? You can.
So again, LinkedIn is hashtags, but you can do newsletters in there. You can do events. I mean, events are a massive way of getting exposure and getting your name out there. I would say that could be, like even an online event for you could be really good.
Show them my magic tricks.
Well, you don't want to give I'd have to think about how that might work for a photographer, but it's people by people, and I always say this. And the more you can get, kind of, especially with photographers, because you never really see the person behind the camera. So that might be a nice way of, meet the person behind the camera, something like that. And come and ask me questions, or there could be something there. But again, it's always getting people back to your website to get them to.
It's interesting. I think Sarah mentioned, was it YouTube? Who mentioned YouTube?
I mentioned YouTube.
Between us when we were talking.
I've noticed a lot of photographers that were on Instagram when I kind of came on, and we hovered in the low. I think, brands use people with large Instagram accounts, photographers, so they can charge what they call likeness. So if you've got 20, 30, 40,000, followers on Insta, a brand will come to you almost, even if you're not a good photographer, because they know you've got an audience. Do you know what I mean? So that's where Instagram's quite powerful. But I noticed a few photographers that were kind of hovering on the same level as me with followers and things like that. It's a bit of a game, doesn't it? Followers, I'm not into that, but you have to do it, sort of thing, if you want to get the brands in. But I noticed they then went on YouTube and started a YouTube channel, and that fueled the Instagram channel. So there was this Polish photographer that was on a kind of couple of thousand followers on Insta. She started a YouTube channel. Now she's gone up into the hundreds of thousands. So one fed the other, you know, and it's quite interesting to watch.
Yeah.
You just got to figure out whether you're brave enough to go on camera on a YouTube channel and talk for 10 minutes.
Yeah, but you know, it's uncomfortable. I know that better than anybody, but now I'm doing these weekly things, turning up every week. I don't get as nervous as I used to. You just got to do it. You just got to do it. When you know what you're talking about and you're passionate about it, that's all you need, really. You just got to do it and be uncomfortable, unfortunately. The only advice I can give you.
There's a phrase that says in business, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
In life.
In life. There we go. Yeah, it's very true.
How we
the
grow.
more you do it, because the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. But then you're like, well, now then you want to get uncomfortable again, because then that means you're
your comfort zone.
growing. Yeah. So you can do it, Chris. You'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
You would. You'd be great.
Get my hair cut.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you so much. That was a really, really interesting chat. I really appreciate you all coming along.
What do you all do by chance? What's your?
I'm a hypnotherapist.
Okay.
And I am the business fixer. So I'm kind of a hybrid of business consultancy and business coaching.
Okay, cool.
And then Jess, who was just here, she's a celebrant. So she does weddings, funerals, and naming ceremony, bar mitzvahs. I don't think she does bar mitzvahs, actually. So yeah.
It's lovely to meet you all.
Yeah, lovely to meet you too. I need to disappear off, so thank you for an amazing training as always, Natalie.
You're welcome.
And you and I are touching base again later, so
yes,
we'll see you later.
Okay, lovely to see you all. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
I shall head off too as well. Thank you.
No problem, Lisa. Great to see you. Take care. Bye.
Right,
I'll let you go then, Natalie. Thanks for today.
Yes. No problem at all. So do that report thing, and then if you want to have a chat, I can drop. I've got like a discovery call Calendly thing. These are all little things that you could be streamlining on your stuff. But
does that remain for this chat? Does it remain in Zoom, or do I have to copy that and send it to myself or something?
Yeah, if you go to the 3 dots at the bottom, if I stop.
Oh yeah.
I just
save chat.
Called it. If you save chat, so you've got the audit tool, and then the just book a call in with me, and then I can explain what each bit means.
Okay.